Okay, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Aeolus, an open source API and framework geared around cloud computing. Specifically, we're going to be showing you how to deploy to any cloud provider in the world of your choosing using a simple command that is provided as part of the framework. So without further ado, here is a fresh Fedora 15 VM. I have not done anything to this VM other than install Fedora 15 on it, and this is literally the first screen that you see after the Anaconda installer is finished. So we're going to pop open the terminal, and we're going to use that to set the prerequisites. Specifically, the user I'm going to be running the installation tooling in as is going to require sudo access, so I set that up for him. Specifically, I am going to be setting up a passwordless sudo access, as you can see here. And then with that, we are going to be installing the mechanism which I'm going to retrieve the script, namely wget, and the script is written in Ruby, so we need to install the Ruby interpreter on top of that. To actually retrieve the script, and then we use Ruby to actually run it. And we need to run this as the super user, so we run that as sudo. And then, as you can see here, it creates the repositories, and then it starts downloading the packages. And here we can see that the package installation has completed, and that the interactive configuration and installation tool has launched. On the next screen, we are prompted for which Aeolus components we would like to install and configure. This is useful for a case where if you would like to install in the image factory and warehouse the image creation mechanisms and components on one machine with the API and perhaps the web interface and other components on another machine, perhaps a shared machine, you can do that and configure the different components to communicate with each other right here. But for the simplest case, we're just going to install everything locally and play around with the tooling here. So right off the bat, we are prompted to add a provider, which we will name mock, and we will create, for our first provider, just a simple dummy provider, which will demonstrate some features. We will create a second provider named EC2 US East 1, which will represent our EC2 provider. US East 1 is the EC2 endpoint. Now, for the EC2 credentials, we need to go and sign up for Amazon's EC2 service on our own. But once we do so, we can easily get our credentials by navigating to aws.amazon.com. Then clicking on Account, clicking on Security Credentials, providing your email address and password. And as soon as I sign on here, I will be provided with the security credentials screen, in which the next following prompts on the interactive installer for Aeolus will prompt you for information you can retrieve from that screen. Now, for security purposes, I'm not going to be showing the screen or those prompts on the installer, but rest assured it will ask you for the access key, the secret access key, your account ID, which you can get on that screen. It will also prompt you for two more bits of information. On the management console, you will be brought to the interactive interface which Amazon provides to control EC2. In order to get the remaining credentials for the EC2 creation process, you will need to create a pair of keys which you can then use to log into instances created on EC2. Simply click key pairs, click create keys, and then you will be presented with an interface to name your key pair and to download it there afterwards. So after you've created the MOC and the EC2 providers, we are now provided a chance to create an alternative provider, which we will, for the Rackspace Cloud provider, after which we are prompted for our Rackspace username and our API key. Providing your Rackspace username and password. Navigating to your account, API access, and clicking Show Key. Once again, I'm not going to show the key. And paste it. Note, do not be alarmed for if some of these restricted fields you do not see the entry. Note, be assured that it is been pasted. It's just not presented for security purposes. I hit enter. I'm allowed to create another provider, at which point I decline. I am going to deploy an instance to these providers. Note, the same instance will be deployed to all providers, whether it be the MOC provider, the EC2 provider, or the Rackspace provider. I am provided the ability to add a package repo to that instance. I'm going to decline in this case, but I can easily add alternative sources which to install packages from. And here you can see I am presented with a mechanism to install an Aeolus package, in which case I'm going to be installing MediaWiki. I'm only going to be installing that one package, so I decline to install more, and I decline to instantiate additional providers, at which point the Aeolus configuration recipe is launched, and which is used to actual setup and configure the different Aeolus components on my machine, setting up the different providers and using Aeolus and those providers to launch instances. The Aeolus configure process is complete. Our cloud providers have been set up along with those accounts on those providers. Instances have been deployed and are running, and then now we can use the Aeolus tooling to further monitor, scale, and deploy instances based on those. So to start off, we will bring up a web browser, and we will navigate to the web interface, the primary interface controlling Aeolus, which is known as the Aeolus conductor. We will log in with a default username and password, which is admin and password, PASSWORD. And here we see the three instances are running. The one on the MOC provider, the one against Rackspace, and the one on EC2. We also can see various features where we can parameterize and add additional providers, create hardware profiles which providers can advertise their services as well as instances can require of providers, add different realms and groupings, and control the clouds in different ways. If we go to the web services themselves for the different cloud providers, we can see the state of our instances which we've started. As we can see here, the running instance. From here, you can associate credentials. You can do what you will. Alternatively, you can use the Aeolus tooling, whether it be the conductor itself or the image creation tooling, which can be accessed via the Aeolus image command, which provides a rich interface to build and push images to various cloud providers in a consistent manner. And if we bring up the Rackspace cloud, can see our instance is running here. We will have gotten an email by this point with our login credentials. And from here we can see that our package that we specified earlier is actually installed. And with that, that concludes our screencast. I'd like to thank you once again for tuning in, and I encourage you to check out Aeolus. It's a great tool set and framework for managing cloud computing in an open manner, in a manner that you can use the same tooling to deploy across clouds and to monitor across clouds, such that you're not locked into a specific cloud provider solution, and that when you choose to move or to be able to scale across clouds in a manner that best serves your needs and not any one particular cloud provider. Stay tuned for more updates as there are more screencasts coming along about the various tooling Aeolus provides.